Oh, okay. So logging in incognito was not a great idea.
Excellent. Well, yeah, just to start us off here, thank you everybody for coming tonight. I'm really excited that we've been able to be joined by some fantastic panelists here. I think the theme of this panel is that AI development is becoming something of national importance and something that is becoming more regional as well. And so something that companies are building, and countries as well, building their own models that kind of reflect their languages, norms, economic goals, sovereignty aims as well. And this matters here in the U.S., right? We aren't in Korea, Singapore, Italy, but this is important because we're going to increasingly work in kind of the globalized world with different cultures, different models, and it's important to remain engaged and aware in this. And so, yeah, today we have a really diverse panel. I was going to introduce everybody, but I think honestly, I think I probably wouldn't do it justice. So we can start here with Joonhyung. If you want to introduce yourself and just kind of start us off, just 2 to 3 minutes, talk a little bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Joonhyung Lee, and I'm currently an AI research scientist over at Naver Cloud. And so I know that Naver so Naver is the sister company of Line, which is really popular over in Japan and Southeast Asia. But I know that both Naver and Line aren't all that famous over in the States. And so, so Naver is sort of a search company over here in Korea, and yeah, and as for what we do in AI, we've been developing our own foundation model, Hyperclova X, and we use it for a lot of internal operations, for example, to help with our advertising and hopefully to do other kinds of tasks as well. As for what I do precisely, I'm actually a member of the Efficient AI team over here, and we do hardware-software co-optimization. And so we're working to design our own IP to get AI-specific accelerators. And because the workloads involved in AI, they're so different, and everyone knows that NVIDIA GPUs are essential for AI, but not that many people understand why NVIDIA GPUs are essential for AI. And so we have a lot of collaborations with hardware manufacturers. For example, just last week, I was over at Intel Vision, and I had a meeting with CTO Greg Lavender, and so yeah, we have collaborations with Intel, SK Hynix, and lots of other companies to go all the way down to designing customized hardware for AI accelerators. And so my role over here at Naver Cloud is to understand how to optimize how large language models work and how to provide these as a service provider efficiently. And to do that, we do all kinds of things, all the way from research to hardware design. Yeah, so I think
Awesome.
This would be a good time to pass on to the next person.
Yeah. John, if you want to jump in and kind of give us a little bit of introduction about yourself as well, that'd be great.
Which one? Because
sorry. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit confusing. I apologize.
Yeah, Gian. It's very hard to see.
Yes, yeah. The most confusing named panel, I think, maybe over here. So, yeah, John Zini. Then, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, here I am. My full name is Gianpaolo Zini. Sounds a little different, but I've been here in Utah for 16 years. I had to cut a few branches, so I go by Gian. Anyway, I am a lawyer, a financial and investment consultant. I practice law in Milan, London, and New York, and I moved to Utah in 2006, commuting between New York and Salt Lake for a while, and then just becoming a resident of the Beehive State. I'm not a scientist, but law, finance, and investments are really the way I see the tool to bridge science with development, triggering AI investments, and this is an area where I'm particularly active. I practice law and a leadership position in investment funds, with the focus, of course, in securities laws, international capital markets, private equity, venture capital, technology and innovation, and sustainability, sustainable finance have been a focus of mine for several years. And in these last 2-3 years, obviously, artificial intelligence has become a leitmotif of the investment landscape, and that's what I'm doing. My perspective has always, of course, been international, the international perspective, having worked basically all my professional life in connecting the United States with Europe, and doing also some interesting work in Asia. And that's about it.
Awesome, thank you. And then John, if you want to introduce yourself as well, that'd be fantastic.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. So I suppose it'll make it easier if I say that my first name is actually Jian, so that kind of
Jian, did I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So I am the assistant head over at the ARF in the AISG. So ARF stands for Applied Research for Foundation Models, and I work with AI Singapore by supporting the Sea Lion team, which does the model development, and we also have like an LLM evaluation team, right? So primarily they work on maintaining CHELM and trying to look at how to improve CHELM, because models are improving very, very quickly. Basically, we handle the pre-training, post-training, alignment, as well as evaluations, right? So each part of model development. But the teams are separate, because there are times when people need to work together, but also when people need to work independently. As you might imagine, evaluations is important for all of this, for example, but it should be independent of everything else, right? So I have a PhD, but it's in linguistics, and I got it from the University of Arizona. My specialization was in theoretical syntax and formal semantics. The reason why we at AISG are really trying so hard to build good models and good evaluations is because we do care very, very much about trying to improve the linguistic and cultural representation for the region, in terms of the data that's available, given how rapidly and how broadly AI is advancing these days, right? So we have people with broad expertise, right? Me being like one of the ones who provide like kind of a different perspective from computer science, or maybe like data scientists and so on, right? Yeah, so at AISG, we are a government-funded program, right? So that's I guess that's kind of where we cover all the different areas that we have, right? So I guess here I kind of represent the public sector a bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah. And thank you all for introducing yourselves. As you can all see, I mean, this is going to be a pretty exciting discussion tonight. I just want to kind of start with the core need here. Joonhyung and Joonhyung, you guys are working on Sea Lion and Hyperclova X. And these are, focused on Southeast Asian languages and then the, Korean language. Why is it important for nations and regions to invest in their, foundational AI models? What does each model seek to address? Because I think it is different between you. Joonhyung, do you want to take that first?
Well, I don't mind, but if it's okay, I think, yeah. So there are several very important reasons. First of all, obviously, sovereignty. For example, there are political and social issues that people are rather sensitive about, obviously. And also, I think a strong element of national pride is also involved. For example, since large language models nowadays are representative of what technological achievements that a nation can achieve. But even from a rather more down-to-earth and cost-effective perspective, you would probably want to have your own large language model because there is simply no guarantee that other service providers will take care of your language using phrases that you would really like to see for your language. For example, when ChatGPT and even now most large language models right now, they really have very few tokens for Korean, and so if you do language generation for Korean language using ChatGPT, for example, the output document length becomes like only about 1/4 of what you would get in English. And also, obviously, the alignment and the quality of generation obviously are much worse. And so obviously, this multilingual evaluation, I know, is a very big topic, even inside the top AI labs. And from my personal experience, I think that Claude is rather better at both at coding and at Korean. I don't know if Python counts as a language in the traditional sense, but it definitely does better at non-English languages. So, yeah. But also, yeah, I think, to be perfectly fair, I'm not all that sure that the political issues that come up, for example, in social media, people talk a lot about what kinds of political answers that their language models are giving them. I know that this is a really big liability for language model providers and for alignment people, but from the perspective of ordinary people who just want to get their homework done or get their documents written, I don't think this is to be perfectly honest, I don't think this is all that important. After all, lots of people in the States use DeepSeek. So yeah, I don't think this is, to be perfectly honest, all that important. But the quality of language generation, especially if you don't have people who are dedicated to working on that. For example, by deciding how many tokens to use for that language, checking if alignment is working properly in that language. I think the quality of generation is, even for relatively popular languages, like Korean, it's not exactly a low resource language. Even for relatively popular languages, I think there are some serious quality degradations that need to be addressed. And I'm sure that there are similar issues in fields like, for example, law, medicine, and other domains.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, Joonhyung, do you want to kind of expand on that a little bit more? I saw you shaking your head a little bit there. It sounds like there might be some similarities there.
Yeah, for sure. So just to echo Joonhyung's point, there's been a lot of research, right, from many different institutes across the world now to suggest that Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic countries, I'm sure you've heard of the acronym. So especially the English-speaking ones, they are overrepresented in the data that is used to train models or in the AI space at large. While English is widely recognized as the global language of trade and I suppose education as well, models trained to generate such data inevitably contain normative, social, or cultural biases that do not align as well with other parts of the world, such as in the Southeast Asian, or as we call it, the C region. While it is not usually very apparent, it's usually quite subtle, but this kind of misalignment can be detrimental to the overall linguistic and cultural diversity of the rest of the world. It also means that there are barriers to AI access for those who do not speak English well or who prefer to use non-English languages in their daily lives, because there are many parts of the world that actually people get by without speaking English, and they get by perfectly well because it's just not that as important, right? With Sea Lion, we have more control over the quality, the language types, and the proportion of data, right, that ultimately go into a model training. We also have more oversight into the existing data gaps that we have to address, right, such as data gaps in regional languages or dialects, as well as gaps in cultural knowledge. So because Sea Lion is developed with the goal of catering to the sea region, it understands the linguistic and cultural nuances of the region. So we think that it is a more viable alternative for developers, government agencies, or industry players who are looking to successfully integrate AI into their workflows or for interacting with their human clients, right? So basically, it's kind of like complementing what Joonhyung said, right? Regarding, maybe the average user who has like very touch and go interactions with models may not feel that they come away from it with such bad experiences. But in our part of the world, at least, like a lot of people, even with the way that English is being used, right? Like it's very easy, or rather like we can easily sense like, this is like a very American or British type English. And if you're trying to serve a client base, they may not like it as much as something that like really understands local context, for example.
Yeah, and I guess you can probably speak to this as well, as even even in English, right? Singaporean English does have its own differences, right? And being able to capture that as well, I think, is important just from a cultural standpoint. I guess.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, so Singaporean English is a great example. Taglish is another great example. So models are notoriously bad at Taglish, right? If only it could be a tokenization issue, it could be like a language detection issue, but these are some of the things that people really, if you're on the internet, you'll see it all the time. But it's actually very difficult for models to generate such responses naturally, or sometimes even like for the models to really properly capture the intention of the user's instructions is also quite a challenge still.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess John, from kind of an international business perspective and in a European perspective as well, I think we're seeing a shift right now between the U.S. and Europe, and Europe really putting an emphasis on data privacy and I think kind of data sovereignty as well. How do you see the European approach maybe differing from the approach of, like, say, it sounds like being as effective in the languages, just given the amount of training material that European languages tend to have in relation to, say, Southeast Asian languages?
Well, that's obviously very important. It's important for everyone. When I go back to Italy, I have a problem with Italian English after 30 years in the United States. But joking apart, it's essential, of course, to train to have machine learning to be sure that there's not a disparity, and languages, European languages, are considered, and the AI platforms can develop content, can deliver content, can originate content which is not biased. The European perspective is kind of different, if I may say, from what could be Asian or other part of the world, in that the European Union has been in union for many, many years. We have 27 countries that are member states of the European Union, and the Union has worked with 27 countries in everything that comes to legislation, interaction, trade, and there's a mental training, a mental disposition to really work with multiple languages, and that helps to address these issues, even if, of course, the use of the English language is dominant and will continue to be so. I am not a fan of the expression data sovereignty, because from a legal standpoint, that seemed to convey an idea of proprietary disposition, while in reality European laws and regulations, like the General Data Protection Regulation that everybody knows here, also in the United States, or the EU Digital Service Act, or more recently, the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act, are not there to create barrier to establish some sort of populist or nationalistic kind of, but essentially the goal is to protect the consumer. In terms of protect their personal and sensitive data, and interacting globally, of course, and is essential. And then there is a need to bridge the European Union with North America. The most difficult context there is not as much the law itself, but it's dealing with the part of the world, with the European Union, with this economic area, which probably is highly regulated, if not over-regulated, with the United States that have taken a different trend. So how do I interact efficiently with the country? Like, think, for instance, artificial intelligence. The European Union Artificial Intelligence Act was really the very first kind of legal framework to try to address the risk of using artificial intelligence for business, for finance, for the law, and for everyday activities, as opposed to the United States, where, I mean, we had an executive order, we had the bill pending before Congress, and when the administration changed, everything was thrown away, and we are starting again with just discussing the national plan for artificial intelligence, with everybody contributing. And on the other end, there are states that try to regulate that. Utah claims to be the first state in the United States to have regulated artificial intelligence, but the scope of that bill is very, very limited. I kind of like a lot, to tell you the truth, and I'm not biased in this respect, because I'm just like to compare laws and apply the law to the extent possible to originate investments to advance scientific research and scientific application of artificial intelligence. But defining what the risks are for the consumer and for business, which is the approach of the Artificial Intelligence Act, defining unacceptable risk, high risk, minimal risk, defining some protection for the enterprise, is, in my opinion, the way to give some context to this very abused buzzword of what is responsible artificial intelligence. We got to be very practicable. We can use a lot of buzzwords, but when it comes to business, when it comes to helping scientists to develop what they have to do and deploy capital, you need to eliminate buzzwords. From any strictly Italian standpoint, and every European member state has this situation to try to help, of course, to to foster, to enhance the economic development of their own country. Many European countries have small, medium enterprises, in ways the same here in Utah. And you have to help them to grow, and to help them to grow means help them to trade beyond the borders of the country or of the state. And we see that a lot of small, medium enterprises are struggling to have the resources to deploy, to develop their own artificial intelligence platform or content. And so there is a need to develop a grid, if I may use this expression, to help throughout the country all small, medium enterprises to more quickly start using AI, as opposed, obviously, to larger companies. And I've seen in Italy, and I've seen in other European countries, some part of the people that are involved in this exercise in kind of fighting big tech. And I think that's a big mistake, because you have to work with big tech, and you have to take advantage of progress as much as it's there, rather than just trying to reinvent the wheel on your own.
Yeah, I think that ties in actually really well about what I wanted to talk about next. With that approach of how we deal with the balance of government, corporate interests, and who's responsible for not just developing this, but also for creating the rules around its use, right? And so that kind of leads to the next question here. I guess Joonhyung, if you want to kind of start us off here, talk a little bit about how AI Singapore works, with companies, because I know you guys do partner with like quite a few companies. You have probably the widest range of partnerships of anybody here. But then also kind of talk about how you're also focused on developing that from more of a government public sector standpoint as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is that we have to be very careful with how we obtain data, right? Because we are government funded. So everything that we do needs to be above board, obviously. It is a challenge, but it makes us innovate even more, right? When it comes to trying to think about how can we improve the quality of the data that we have, how do we augment the data that we have. And it also makes us work harder to foster the ecosystem around us in the Southeast Asian region, so that more people want to collaborate. That's exactly why we have so many different partners, right? We try to work with as many people as we can. Of course, we might all have different ultimate goals in mind, but there's a lot of common ground that we can find, right? And because we want to build up the regional ecosystem, one of our goals is actually uplifting the AI capabilities in the Southeast Asian region, right? For both public sectors, such as in government agencies, and also for private sectors. Like one of the one is Gojek, they're also building their own models. And sometimes people want to work on infrastructure, sometimes people want to work on models, many different things, right? And in line with uplifting AI capabilities for the C region, we've also worked on use cases for public sectors as well as for the private sector as well as for the public sector. Yeah. So that's also to say that we have a lot of freedom to drive use cases for public good, right? This allows us to create or to work on things such as education assistant for the Southeast Asian Foundation, or maybe like a conversational assistant for migrant workers. That's one of the big issues in Southeast Asia. And other than AI capability building, we also work towards increasing representation of the C region in the AI space, as what I've been saying. And we can do this because we, have the funding to stay open, right? So yeah, it's a balance, but we find it to be a very interesting and ultimately quite a fruitful way to do things, because we are not looking to do everything by ourselves. Yeah, we want the whole region to work together.
Yeah, I think it's a great approach, especially when you consider, I think we see some American companies that are, maybe venture backed and trying to get to profitability faster. If your end goal is not profitability up front, then it does open a lot of other doors. So I guess to kind of pivot from there, Joonhyung, obviously coming from more of the corporate element there, with Naver and being a private company that does receive support from the government. How does the system in South Korea work? How is it maybe a little bit different than the Singaporean approach, the American approach?
Oh, yeah. So, well, to clarify things, Naver is, as you said, a government is a private company, and although we do get like indirect government support, we aren't directly supported by the funded by the government. Just to make clear. But obviously, Korean tech companies are a lot smaller than their American counterparts, so we have to deal with much limited resources. Even like compared to DeepSeek, yeah, there are different levels of a GPU poor. So yeah, so I think that all in all, so because a lot of people who are listening, although there are lots of AI researchers, there are also people in business and finance who are interested in the market and how it works. So I think that the general market can be divided into two segments. First is the public sector, so like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, chatting applications, and like Claude and that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's like the public-facing sector. And then there's a bit more specialized sector where you actually install or dedicate servers to some large clients for their specialized use cases. For example, we have a service called NeuroCloud that we installed in Samsung. And so obviously companies, even more so than governments, are very interested in data privacy and specializing for their use cases. And I think this is one area that a lot of people in the States can really agree about, because once you start installing or customizing your model for specific users or domains, then you sort of see the similar issues that you get when you start customizing for different languages, because like specific customers, they have their own like jargon, use cases, and background knowledge and that kind of thing. And that's really similar to how the background of different languages are different. So I think that might be one point where a lot of people might feel a connection between how foreign languages and like foreign domains can have similarities. And yeah, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know how many of you have been making Ghibli right now, but yeah, OpenAI is definitely not making a profit with their GPU public-facing service. And I don't think anyone else is making a profit either. Like, I know DeepSeek says that they have 545%, but when you actually read their GitHub, it says this is not our actual profit margin. And yeah, so I don't think anyone is making money or even plans to make money from their public-facing LLM services. And that's frankly more of an advertisement than anything else. And so most of the real money that we are seeing potentially is to get large clients. We're planning on doing smaller clients later maybe, but initially we're starting off with large clients and customizing to their specialized needs. So obviously government is a very important target. Government has lots of documents and very, very specific needs, both for data quality and for security. So obviously fitting your government client, meeting your government client needs is a very important market. And in some cases, for example, in the Middle East, entire nation states can sometimes request that their services sort of be run inside their country, sort of as a separate section. But not everyone has oil coming out of the ground in gushers, so yeah. And also, large companies are also interested in adopting AI for lots of reasons, but they're obviously also very, very sensitive about their data leaving. Even if you give them assurances that your cloud is perfectly secure, it's really, really hard to convince them. And so the best option is simply to install your servers inside their data centers. So yeah, I think when discussing the prospects for large language models and AI, I think we should separate out the two market sections, the public-facing side and the specialized side. And yeah, I think for a lot of people in the States, why should we be interested in how large language models for foreign languages or for international use cases, how are these relevant to us? I think that the best example is that when you actually try to make money from selling AI, you find that customers want things. They don't want just stuff directly off the shelf, and they want customization. And getting that customization, that's really, really similar to how you customize for foreign languages. So I think those are sort of the 2 points that I think a lot of people might be interested in.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, yeah, a lot there, but I think kind of to your point, in preparing for this, I read through some of the Italian national AI strategy, and one of the things I think they put very well there, they said the development of foundational models is increasingly the privilege of large private research centers. And then they went on to say Italy cannot fall behind, right? And so I guess, John, from an Italian perspective, kind of echoing what Joonhyung said there, how does Italy intend to kind of bridge the gap between both sectors and not fall behind, even though like you said, there's different levels of GPU poor. You're on mute, by the way.
Sorry. There are a lot of questions or a lot of answers to your question. Let me put it that way. If we just focus about on the Italian strategy, that is the roadmap for between 24 and 2026, there are some fundamental pillars, which is research and innovation, and goes to be up to speed with the rest of the world. Public administration, in other words, how to leverage AI application to improve the efficiency of public services. Enterprise, I mean, serving and enhancing, helping large and small and medium enterprises to start using AI in the most productive way, and the ethical use of AI, which is in line with the rationale of the European law, European regulations, and various national laws, and enhance digital skills. And so we go to higher education and also training employees. Two ways I would say to look at this. One is if we think of developing data center, and if we think, like, based on what Gian was saying, to deliver something to a customer, to deliver something to a client. And something else is really helping research, fund research to create new products, new AI focus based products and technology. I don't see a juxtaposition between the public sector and the private sector. In that, fortunately, the European Union has not, to this day, and it will not undermine the government funding, government support for research, scientific research, and AI. The uncertainty that we are now experiencing in the United States for funding scientific research or healthcare focused research, it's certainly something that we are not going to see not even just in the short term, in the medium long term. European Union and all the at least the top EU member states are really committed to deploy significant public capital into the development of AI. And the private sector, it's essential. I think that the partnership really between public and private. Again, is not another buzzword. We have to do a lot of public-private partnership. We have to facilitate P3s, and then a lot of people talk and do nothing. Then we really need to put money together there to create something. From my standpoint, based on my activity, what I like to do, I like to convey, to deploy, to identify and deploy both government research funding and private capital into the development of new technologies, of new products. And that's essential because while if you think just of the healthcare ecosystem, research and healthcare hospital institutions that have traditionally relied on two sources of finance: government funding and grants, and philanthropy. All right. Now, this is very much at peril. And if they don't switch their way of thinking and start thinking of targeting the support, not just of philanthropy, but private capital that would invest with them to develop new technologies to have eventually a return on their investment, then things are gonna stall. Now, if you think in terms of return of investment, again, when you finance, when you fund startups, new technologies, and you are committed to fund their growth trajectory until they are profitable and they go beyond the early stage and reach the growth stage, you don't have the problem that you have when you just put yourself in the position of a seller that has to sell as much as possible and have a revenue and increase their revenue. There you have a longer horizon, because generally when you think of an investment fund specialized, or even a company specialized in this kind of AI science, of AI research, of AI technology, you have how is an investment fund structure? You start the fundraising, you obtain your capital commitments, you call your capital commitments, you have 2, 3, 4, 5 years as an investment period where you deploy the capital as quickly as possible, not to let your limited partners with dry powder that doesn't originate any return. And then you have basically typically 10 years of the investment term, and within those 10 years, you have to kind of make money by growing your investee companies and eventually possibly either bringing them to the IPO situation or divesting them and eventually distribute to your LPs the return on the investment, or eventually reinvest in it. And this is the area where I'm more engaged, where I'm more committed, and where I see a lot of institutions here. And I like a lot the healthcare system, and I've seen a lot the healthcare system raising their antennas and understanding that this is the time to do that. So I look at that more than just, big tech having to sell their products. And I like how much big tech, that's why I think that whenever I hear some conflictual approach, some juxtaposition with big tech, I always say I disagree, because big tech, apart from growing as much as they've grown and making people happy with the stock that they own, at least until these last 20 days, they have committed a lot of capital in supporting the growth of new technology, and this is really amazing. So, chapeau. We need to be grateful also to big tech for what they've been doing to help fund research and innovation.
Yeah. Well, I think you can see across the approaches. I think everybody has kind of pointed to there's no really one way to do it with one or the other. There definitely has to be some synergies between public and private sector there. As we're running down a little bit on time here, I do want to make sure we touch on open source, because I know this is a big topic. I want to kind of congratulate Joonhyung and the AI Singapore team. I think yesterday you guys released Sea Lion 3.5, which is an open source model. So congratulations on that. And then I guess maybe you can kind of lead us off here. What do you think this open source kind of strategy from AI Singapore and Sea Lion, what does that do for the region? And what does that do for, say, other countries outside of Singapore that caters to by making that open?
Yeah, so yes, you're right. We recently just launched 3.5. So actually, even from our version 1, it has always been open source, and that is what we are committed to, right? Not only open sourcing our models, but also as much as we can, the data that we train our models on, right? We also encourage all of our collaborators to be as open as they can with their contributions. And this allows us to contribute to the public good, but it still allows us to have a balance, right, with industry players, government agencies, as well as research institutions in the region and around the world, right? So the other nice thing about being open source is that our collaborators know exactly who they're working with and what types of data that we have or don't have. Like we really don't have anything to hide, right? Like if we say that like we need more data, we do need more data, right? And we do try to reach out to as many people as we can. That said, though, we do understand that you can't open source everything because there's like copyrighted material, certain financially sensitive documents or medical data. We understandably different to open source. So we try to tailor arrangements with our collaborators as and when these arise, right? So it's quite a balance. It's quite a challenge as well. But at the end of the day, being able to do everything out in the open really, as you mentioned earlier, Trevor, opens up a lot of opportunities because it makes it very easy for people to understand where we're coming from with our models and understand like how we have developed the models and how we have done the evaluations for the models as well as the data, and then people can really decide for themselves like, okay, so we know pretty much what we're getting into. Should we work with them? Should we not? If we do want to work with them, what can we open source? How can we help? Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that. And I guess to kind of go to the other side, right, of kind of the open source discussion here, Joonhyung, Hyperclova is a more of a proprietary model there. What kind of informs the decision not to open that up and to have that more of a closed source proprietary model?
Obviously, we have like data issues, and we also have like data issues, for example, and there are obviously risks in doing open source. For example, like Llama 4 recently got attacked a lot after coming out. So yeah, sometimes not everything goes as expected, but I think a lot of it is because like so obviously doing open source does not directly generate a profit, but frankly, most of the cost of serving a model is not from the model training cost anyway, because like that cost is considered zero. And most of the cost is just comes from the GPUs and the power, for example, required to serve models. And I won't go into details, but about Hyperclova X, stay tuned. There might be some interesting news. I will not say anything more.
No, please don't.
yeah. We'll keep our ears out. That sounds exciting. I guess to go to you, John. Looking at from a European value standpoint, I know companies like Mistral are known for very kind of having a similar ethic to like Anthropic in the way they test their models and make sure not only they protecting rights, which I think kind of fits with the GDPR and kind of some of those regulations, and then also how does the kind of data privacy, which we've kind of heard from both of them, of kind of talking about the training data, and then also how does that apply to then open sourcing the models and kind of the European framework?
Yeah, that's kind of difficult because the GDPR is doing something very well, which is to protect personal sensitive data, but at the same time is still struggling to catch up with technological needs. There is a need. That's why I don't like the concept of data sovereignty, because we can protect individual personal information. We can address and try to oppose illegal content, misinformation, and establish responsibilities on online platform. But we need to open up to the use of that protected data when the scope of the use is functional to a meritable purpose. Again, if I can go back and make the example of healthcare, if you think about the application of artificial intelligence technology to, say, just to make an example, diagnostic, prevention and therapy of cancer. The application of AI requires the reading, the analysis, the understanding of massive medical scientific data. And if you want really to enhance diagnostic capabilities, prevention, and really pursue cancer patient and enhance cancer patient survivorship, you really need to use as much data as you can. So the concept is, from a legal standpoint, is not, and investors want that because they want to be successful. They want to really have something that grows. So the issue is not to say, okay, this is my data, I own it, I belong it. It belongs to European residents, so nobody can see it. The issue is field of use, just to be able to regulate the dissemination or the structure, rational, protect the sharing of the data for a very specific purpose, and go beyond the data sovereignty approach where it's there, nobody can see it, because that way you're just not up to science. You're much slower, and you basically filibuster the development of AI, scientific application, AI-based research, and so on and so forth. So there is still a lot to do, and I think that the effort of the European Union has been in some cases cumbersome, but in some other cases very helpful to try to catch up with science and technology, and to help a more structured support of open source and data science, as opposed to the Wild West, where there's not a single piece of legislation and you don't know what can happen because it's very much arbitrary, and one administration here or there can say something and another state can say the opposite. So that really doesn't help science and technology, I think. And in my opinion, again, science and technology need to have the priority, and the law, policy frameworks, legal frameworks, and investment are really tools to develop science and technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you so much, all of you guys, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Just before we close up, I do want to get a chance to get to some student questions here. So I do want to open it up to everybody. We'll start here with the front here.
I gotta. Well, can they hear me, or do I?
I can repeat your question here too. Yeah.
This is a question for Gian Zini. You mentioned previously at the very beginning about how there's a big need for incorporating AI into, I would say, smaller businesses, things like that. And I'm curious of maybe more what you meant by that with the laws. I just want your standpoint on it.
Yeah, that goes to the work which is promoted by a private organization in Italy, which is Internazionale per l'Intelligenza Artificiale, the national entity for artificial intelligence, which is not a public entity. It's not a government agency, but it's kind of a non-government organization which came up from professionals, from people, managers, then companies. I mean, it's kind of the civil society kind of aggregation of intelligent goodwill and things like that. And I'm the chair of the North American desk of this organization, and we are working very, very hard, recognizing that I mean, it's in every sector in the country has an interest to enhance productivity, knowledge, and use of artificial intelligence. And at the same time, we recognize that a lot of companies, a lot of small companies, a lot of medium-sized companies even, don't have the financial resources to create a system, their own system, and are afraid to some extent to use the major platforms, and because they are very much afraid that they would lose the proprietary of their trade secrets. And also, I mean, we have seen that one of the problems with AI that we have seen also before when it came to sustainability and reporting sustainability, the problem is garbage in and garbage out, meaning you have to import in the system fair and true data, and then you can report well. Likewise, if you have machine learning and you train the machine with information which is not correct, you get something that is not. So this ENIA, Internazionale per l'Intelligenza Artificiale, has established some sort of partnership with the government and with some of the top Italian companies, both industrial and tech companies, and also working with the US big tech companies to try to develop a grid, to try to develop a product that can be used by small companies and give them some sort of assurances that they're not going to disperse their data to the mercy of who knows who. So that's what we're working right now on.
Yeah, thank you. Next question here in the back.
So with AI changing the landscape of every industry, especially internationally in your individual countries, what would you recommend students and young professionals focus on to use this technology to help them advance in their individual spaces?
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard the question there, you know, kind of with the changing landscape of AI, what would you recommend to students to pursue to make sure that they're, you know, kind of future-proofed within their careers there?
The question is for?
Just for everybody. If maybe we could get a quick answer from each of you.
Okay, guys, go ahead.
Well, okay. Well, I think I can start with, yeah, so I think my answer will be the most down to earth. And my recommendation, backed up by experience from my younger brother, is to get a ChatGPT subscription and use it to its fullest, and maybe get a scholarship. And so, yeah, my younger brother is using that strategy extremely well, and also using it to learn about subjects that he doesn't know about. And also like Google Notebook LM, I think. It's a really, really good resource for learning about very difficult and challenging topics that might be really difficult to understand in a very engaging format. So it takes a lot of work, but I think, yeah, so although I am an AI research scientist, I think that too many researchers are stuck in their own like world where everything is about model alignment, tokens coming in, tokens coming out, and we don't really pay that much attention to how like ordinary people use this in their lives. But actually, I happen to be working with several tech-savvy people who are not researchers, but who implement AI in a lot of their lives. And So aside from the obvious, like just using ChatGPT to generate answers to homework questions, that kind of thing, even aside from that, using it to summarize and understand lengthy documents, for example, that actually takes a lot more work than just uploading a PDF onto OpenAI, ChatGPT, for example. You actually have to split this out into several long documents. You can join organizations or groups, just casual groups or chatting rooms where they discuss how you can better utilize AI models to get your work done, for example. And I think starting out in college is a really good idea because there are lots more opportunities and lots more people who are interested, and and there's more space. For example, so prompt tuning was a really interesting topic. For example, reasoning models have different kinds of optimal prompts compared to ordinary chatting models, for example. And so trying to really spending a few months trying to switch over your entire workflow to AI. I know this is difficult, and like the value proposition might not be all that obvious, especially at first, but I think it's so I've been really surprised by how some of the people, not all of the people, but some of the people around me are using AI really effectively to organize their knowledge work, both for like not just casually using language models to do some of their work. That's actually really just like level 1. But going beyond that level to using it as sort of an external brain, I think trying that out now might be a reasonably good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And then Joonhyung, do you want to address that as well?
If time permits, I can add a few complementing
feel
ideas.
free.
Yeah, okay, I'll keep it short. So definitely understanding from the user perspective at least, right? Understanding how AI works is really important. Like for us, when we interview people, one of the things that we ask is like, how much do you know about ChatGPT? Have you tried using it? If it applies in your native language. Answers vary, right? But it's really, really important because it's just like decades ago when the internet first came along, people were grappling with the idea of like, what is this? How do I use it? What can I use it for? Turns out everything, right? So it's kind of like that with AI now, where the applications are pretty much endless because of the fact that it's generated. So it's really, I wouldn't say it will give you like perfect answers or anything like that. And that's part of the reason why you have to understand where the limitations of applying AI to whatever your workflow or whatever your preferences are. Understanding the limitations really, really helps you to figure out what it is that you think you can use it for best, or in the event that you want to work in an industry where like the use of AI or the integration of AI is prevalent, it can really help you to have that edge because you understand where the gaps are, and you can understand at least like from the outside how it is that you want to make that user experience better. And from the developer's perspective, that's very useful. This type of feedback is always very, very useful. Yeah.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, my advice, I don't have a recipe for all. I would focus on School of Business students and School of Law students. School of Business, both trade and finance do benefit from the application of AI. If you just think of finance, AI can solve tons of problems, and learning how to use AI in a structured fashion, think of fraud prevention, think of credit monitoring, that can dramatically expedite the due diligence review for the lending strategy of the bank, wealth management, financial trading. There are tremendous applications in the world of finance, and rather than limiting work, limiting access of young grads into the world of finance. Actually, I think that the application of AI to finance shows the rise of multidisciplinary incoming people that can come and work into finance, coming from different areas. The same for the law. I mean, the application of AI. I mean, trying to get and use AI just to have somebody that writes the contract for you, or writes to someone and complain, or makes legal research is kind of stupid in a way. And so far, there have been also funny examples of people that have really made mistakes just relying on the AI platform output. But just imagine compliance. Compliance for a global company is just absolutely a huge task, and you can certainly expedite and structure that global compliance task efficiently. Think, for example, if you think of litigation, if you think of securities laws, of financial litigation, criminal law also. I mean, what is the integrity of the evidence, or the full acquisition of the evidence upon which a jury or a judge make a decision, and can be a decision that can really be very impactful from a financial or a personal standpoint. Generally, human beings don't have the capacity to review all the evidentiary material and end up deciding based on 5-10%, and oftentimes the decision is wrong. With the application of AI to forensic evidence, we can hope to reach a justice that is more just, both civil justice and criminal justice. So my focus is just my advice for the students is see what you want to do, whether you want to be in finance, business, management, marketing, law, and look very, very, very much in depth to what the application to your dream is, and try to develop that knowledge, and you will have higher chances to be recruited at a time where it's difficult for young people. I mean, it was easier it was easier at my time you could get in easier, and then you had to prove yourself, work day and night, and go the distance and survive. Now it's even more difficult to get your foot in the door. So I mean, merging knowledge of artificial intelligence with what your basic discipline is will help you to be hired, and that's the wish I want to make to you all, to get a good job that you love.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all so much for joining us. I know we are running overtime here, but I do want to give you guys each a chance just to let us know how we can connect with you, how to keep up with what each of y'all are doing. So just real quick, Joonhyung, if you want to, let us know, how can we follow what AI Singapore is doing, and how can we keep up with kind of your research as well?
Yeah. Okay. So on Hugging Face, we have an AI Singapore page, and it's just huggingface.co/AI Singapore. So you can use that to look at all of our models, all of our data sets. And, if you look at the model cards, you'll be able to see like, okay, how can we contact AI Singapore for anything? Or the model cards also point you to some of the research work that we've done, some of the other sites that are relevant. If not, you can also visit sea-lion.ai, and that will be the webpage. And then there's also the, for people who are very interested in kind of like looking into specific LLM evaluations stuff, there's also the C-Helm leaderboard, right? If you just search like SEA-HELM leaderboard, you'll find it pretty easily. Or you can also start from websites, they'll lead you there too. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and Joonhyung, how can we get with you and the unnamed exciting news?
Uh, as for the unnamed exciting news, Hugging Face might be a good place to watch. As for me personally, I think a lot of people have connected to me via LinkedIn, and yeah, so I don't think, yeah, I haven't brought my QR code over here, but if you just connect via LinkedIn, I'll always connect. And as for the research that we do, you can just look up Hyperclova research, and we actually publish lots of papers. Actually, just yesterday, I was writing my last submission to supercomputing until 9 p.m. And yeah, we also have a lot of publications to ICML. One publication to ISCA was recently accepted. And yeah, so we also run open GitHub for Hyperclova open source projects. And yeah, I think as for me personally, I think that my LinkedIn will be the best place to follow.
Perfect. Thank you. And John, how can we keep up with you?
Same thing. You can connect with me on my LinkedIn page. I am one of the few that has my email address in my contact, in my LinkedIn page on the contact information. So that way you can reach me out if you want to send me an email rather than a LinkedIn message, and I welcome everyone to contact me. Being in private equity investments, I tend not to communicate that much. Right? It's obviously private business, but there are a lot of projects going on, and also with the Internazionale per l'Intelligenza Artificiale, this North American desk that we have established recently. We are going to launch in the near future a number of events and projects, and we will welcome anyone who's interested in help and support. Also, I'm a member of what is called the Italian Scientists and Scholars in North America Foundation. And there are a lot of researchers there. They're doing terrific job. And if you contact me, if you tell me what your interests are, I may try to put you in contact with scientists and scholars that are developing AI projects there, if there's a connection.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. This has really been a pleasure and very enlightening. If everybody just give a quick round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. And
Thank you all
yeah, y'all have a wonderful, I guess, Joonhyung and Jonggang, a wonderful rest of your day, and then we'll have a good rest of our night here. So
yeah, and I'll have a very good Italian dinner now.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
Thank
see.
you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good luck. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.